So the United States is threatening Germany with sanctions. Yes. Not the axis of evil of the 21st century, right? Iran, Syria, North Korea. No. This time it's the other axis of evil, right? So yes, even though Germany is one of the United States allies, they are threatening them with sanctions. Why? Over the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is, it's a project between Russia and Germany. So let's take a look at this article. This is from CSNBC. Top U.S. diplomat, meaning Secretary Blinken, right, warns German companies building Nord Stream 2 pipeline that they could face sanctions. Okay, so Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned Germany on Wednesday that companies building the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline could face sanctions as Washington tries to pressure Berlin to pull its support for the controversial Russian-backed energy project. Russia. Blinken, during a press conference at NATO headquarters, said he made clear to German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas that President Joe Biden opposes the project, which would pipe gas directly from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea, bypassing US and EU ally Ukraine. Aw, is that going to be bad for Hunter Biden? Surely that's not good for his business adventures, right? The secretary said he wanted to make sure during his conversation with Maas that there was no ambiguity in the US position on the pipeline. Wow. That means you better do what we say, right? We're not messing around here. The pipeline divides Europe. I'm quoting Blinken. Huh? The pipeline divides Europe. It exposes Ukraine and Central Europe to Russian manipulation and coercion, and it goes against Europe's own stated energy security goals. President Biden has been very clear for a long time in his view that Nord Stream 2 is a bad idea, and I reiterated that view directly to the German foreign minister. And I also made clear that firms engaged in pipeline construction risk U.S. sanctions. So basically, Blinken, as I told you, as I warned you, is Mike Pompeo. All right, it's Mike Pompeo with a mask. Right? If you recall, in late summer of last year, so we're talking August, I think August, September, Mike Pompeo, he went on this little tour in Europe, and he visited all the surrounding countries neighboring Germany, but not Germany. And, in the context of diplomacy, that's sending a message, right? That's sending a message. Especially when you're supposedly allied with that country. I mean, how many tens of thousands of troops do they have there, right? And he visited Austria, for example. I missed an opportunity to throw a shoe at him. What a shame. I still regret that. He visited Poland. He went around to all these countries and told them not to partake in the Nord Stream pipeline, and specifically. He told them specifically not to partake in anything Chinese, right? So Huawei products, no Huawei products, right? Get rid of that. And he didn't visit Germany because of this, specifically because of this, because he knows that the pipeline is like 95% complete. I think they're talking about activating it this year. And so he's pissed off about that. And so the reason he did not visit Germany was to send a message like, you're working with Russia now? Okay, we're going to give you the cold shoulder. Ooh. And so now, this is incredible. They're saying you're going to face sanctions too. Wow. So the department reiterates its warning that any entity involved in the Nord Stream 2 pipeline risks U.S. sanctions and should immediately abandon work on the pipeline. Yeah, so I just want to make a point here. I want to make a point here because when the United States talks about their allies, right, and he did the same shit, today at NATO when he was giving his speech. He's in Belgium, and he's giving his speech about, we have to work with our partners, and we value our close relationships with our allies. Always allies, allies, allies. Okay, yeah, the United States does not have allies. Okay, the United Kingdom, the United States, they don't have allies. And even in the case of the United Kingdom, I would argue that they're the United States bitch, right? Yes, the United States is a demon spawn of the UK, of Britain, but this idea, and it's an actual phrase, the special relationship, which refers to the UK and the US. I think the special relationship is between Israel and the US, and the UK is their bitch now. Now, you know, some people don't view it that way, but whatever. My point here is that this applies even more so to other countries, right? You know, you look at Poland, for example. Every Secretary of State will go there, just as Pompeo did. You know, they'll all go there and say, oh, Poland is our close ally. The only thing that they care about in Poland is creating a buffer with Russia, right? And putting their Patriot missile systems there, right? So they just want to create a wall. Yeah, not an actual physical wall like Trump. No, a wall of missiles, right? And the same thing with Turkey. So Turkey is in NATO. I think the only one of the only reasons Turkey is in NATO is because they want to create another buffer with the Middle East, right? They want to have their Patriot systems there. And there was a huge row, by the way, recently because Erdogan is saying he wants to go with Russian weapons, right? With the S-400, if I recall. The S-400 is the latest model. I can't recall if he wanted the S-300 or S-400, probably the S-400. But, you know, and this is very bad because these surface-to-air missiles they're a bit more capable than the Patriot ones. And, you know, it's just, it's unacceptable, as you're seeing here, for a NATO ally, for a ally of the United States to even contemplate working with Russia, right? The whole reason they created NATO in the first place was to mess with Russia, right? To counter Russia. And so it's just so indicative. It's emblematic of the relationship that the United States has with other countries. It's like the mafia. And I think it's a good analogy because, you know, the mob will come to you and they're like, they pretend to be your friends, right? And they say, oh, you need to pay for protection, right? They start a protection racket. And I think NATO is really emblematic of that. You know, what is it, like 2% or something? And they were pissed off that Germany was not paying. Trump was threatening to, you know, withdraw troops because they're not paying their dues. It's like a protection racket. And it's not just with the armed forces. It's not just with this military organization. It's also even with their economic endeavors, right? So, I mean, is Germany really independent if they're being bullied by the United States, telling them who they can trade with? That's insane, right? Germany's Europe's strongest economy. I think they know what they're doing. I don't think they need to be nannied by the United States. But I just want to highlight to you how the United States does not have allies. It has countries that it keeps on a leash like poodles, right? And they will always be at a disadvantage and in a submissive position. I mean, this is incredible, right? So just to read you the last paragraph from here, they say the Trump administration imposed sanctions on a Russian pipe-laying ship, but it has been unclear how hard a line the Biden administration will take. I mean, what do you mean? The fucking headline says they're going to put sanctions on Germany. It's pretty clear. Anyway, Russia's Gazprom owns Nord Stream 2, the company tasked with the planning, construction, and operation of the pipeline. The project has received financing from Germany's Uniper and Wintershall Dea, France's Engie, Austria's OMV, and the Netherlands' Shell. So, you know, these are several countries that are operating and financing and participating in this project. And once again, this is, as I said before, this is why Pompeo came here. And he was saying things like, you know, we don't want you working on Nord Stream. We don't want you allowing Huawei products into your country. And, you know, they're threatened. This is the United States showing that they're threatened by Chinese tech, right? They don't want any competition. They don't want competition with Silicon Valley, with Apple, with Facebook, with Google. They can't have that. And so, you know, even though the NSA, you know, Snowden, Glenn Greenwald, I mean, they showed us how the NSA is spying on everyone, and they're using these companies. These companies have been participating with them in the PRISM program for decades now, right? Even though they're the ones that are carrying out this mass surveillance, they're spying on everyone, Americans and non-Americans. The US government is turning around and accusing the Chinese of installing spyware on their phones. I mean, look, man, to be perfectly honest, I don't know if that's true or not, But I think at the very least, anyone can see that that's extremely hypocritical. And I would lean towards thinking that it's more of a disinformation. It's just bullshit to try and tarnish the image of Chinese products, of Chinese tech, because they're scared. They're intimidated that, they're gaining such a huge market share. And not just that, you saw with TikTok as well. Remember, Trump wanted to ban TikTok because they wouldn't sell themselves to Microsoft. He was like, you either let an American company buy you because of how popular it is, or we will ban you. I mean, what the fuck is that? Right? They talk about free trade and cooperation and we want to engage with other countries with mutual respect, and we're all about a fair market, and everyone goes out and makes their own fortune, and then it turns out, no, if you don't do what we say, we're going to fuck you. No, that's a mafia, that's a racket, and they do it to their own allies. So what do you expect? It's insane, right? This is not even political, because they're saying here, oh, this is for Europe's security. Now, to be fair, I do recall a moment where Russia did cut off gas to Europe. I think this was when I was a kid. This was early 2000s, and there was some kind of crisis going on there. So, their reasoning is that, well, look, if you let Russia, take a huge market share, gain a huge market share in Europe, and overtake Ukraine, which is allied to the United States and been funded by the United States, well, then you're going to put your own future at risk, because the Russians could turn off the gas at any second. But it's not about that. They don't actually give a fuck about Europe's security. They just care about their own profits. I mean, it doesn't even get more clear than the fact that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was working at a Ukrainian gas company. I mean, the conflict of interest could not be more clear. I don't think it's only about his son. Obviously, it's not. This is bigger than Joe Biden's son. But I mean, look at this, right? Look at this. And when it comes to Syria, for example, there's also this. If you go talk to the BBC, which you shouldn't, I mean, if you listen to the BBC rather, they'll tell you this is a conspiracy theory, right? This is like completely outlawed. But there's this concept that the war on Syria started because of a pipeline, because Qatar and Turkey wanted to build a pipeline that would go through Syria to Europe, and this would undercut Russia's market share. Now, this is an actual project. It's not made up. There was an actual project for this. But I don't think that's the only reason that there's a war on Syria. I think it's much more not obvious, but I think the fact that Syria is a thorn in Israel's side, or it's actually the other way around. Israel is a thorn in Syria's side. Honestly, they bomb Syria every week. They've stolen the Golan Heights. I mean, Syria is not a threat to them, but nonetheless, they won't recognize Israel. Right? They defend the Palestinian cause. They're allied with Iran. They're allied with Russia. I think it's more about regime change than just a pipeline, honestly. I think that's what it's more about. But both could be true. Both could be true, right? But my point here, just to go back, is that there is a concerted effort to make sure that they mess with Russia being able to export gas. And they're trying to mask it as a security concern. But it's not about that. It's about the United States dictating to their allies, their so-called allies, what they can and can't do, who they can trade and who they can't trade with. I mean, you're going to sanction your own allies, really? Wow. Okay. I'm sure the way they're going to frame this, though, is not, they might not sanction, I mean, they're saying they might sanction German companies directly, but Russia is also subject to some sanctions, and they might end up saying that, well, by extension, since you're dealing with Russian company that we've sanctioned, you're also subject to the sanctions. That's how it works, right? That's how they dissuade people from trading, from cooperating with finance and commerce, and how they choke countries, right? They intimidate third parties from just participating in trade and commerce and finance, and it's intimidation. It's like the mafia. It's literally like the fucking mob. It's unbelievable, right? So I just wanted to go through that quickly. Honestly, I don't think Germany is going to abandon the pipeline now. And you have so many countries that have committed to this. Like I said, it's almost complete, according to what I read. I think it's like 95%. No, they're not going to drop that now. But it is interesting watching the United States panic because of Chinese products, because of Russian gas, and Russia has a lot of gas. I think most of it is untapped. Again, my my geography might be a bit rusty, but I remember we studied Russia, and from what I recall, most of their gas is untapped, right? And it's hard to actually even get to, at least with current technology. But of course, that doesn't mean Russia doesn't have anything to sell. They do, and they have a considerable market share. So yeah, it's imperialism again. It's all about the fucking money. That's what it's about. It's all about the resources. And again, I told you Blinken is just like Pompeo with a mask. I told you in every aspect, he's saying the same shit about Iran, about the nuclear deal. If you haven't watched my episode with Scott Ritter, please do. Just Google the communique, Press TV, Richard Medhurst, Scott Ritter, Iran nuclear deal. You'll find it. And Scott says that the U.S. has no intention of rejoining the deal, right? And I think he's right. These people, they are pretending to be different and more diplomatic. They're not. They're the same gangsters.